let them skip a good, healthy breakfast. So what Dr. Aniruddhan is doing is really fantastic. I hope we all can follow suit. Moving on, we have our own, I'll call, our own Dr. K.P. Ananthapadmanabhan, Anant, as we all call him, is, let me put on my glasses, nothing to do with my health, is a lead scientist, group leader at Unilever Research and Development in Trumbull, Connecticut, working on personal care research. Born and brought up in Vadakkancherry, Kerala, Anant received his B.Tech from IIT Mumbai 1974 and Master's 1976 and Doctorate 1980 degrees from Columbia University, New York. Prior to joining Unilever, Anant worked at the Surface Chemistry Skills Center of Union Carbide Corporation in Tarrytown, New York. Anant is an author, editor of a book and has 20 plus patents and 80 plus publications. He is a recipient of several awards and is widely recognized for his contributions to surfactant. I'm learning a lot of new words this morning. Surfactant polymer physical chemistry and physiology of skin cleansing. Thank you very much. The mic is all yours.
Well, that was a long introduction. Thank you very much. As you heard, over the last 25, almost 30 plus years, I have been associated with the chemical industry in one way or other. First 7 years with chemical manufacturing type of company with Union Carbide, and then the rest of the last 25 plus years with Unilever, which is more of a personal care company. I want to thank Dr. Thomas Abraham for giving me the opportunity to come here and tell you about opportunities in these areas. So I was thinking, why should anyone invest in personal care area? What are the opportunities there? So what is shown here, for example, this works, is basically, if you look at the personal care area, it has been a growth area over the last 25 years, and it is expected to continue to grow in the next several years as well. And clearly, Asia is one of the major areas where the growth is continuing. So clearly an area for investment. If you look at really within the personal care area overall, you can sort of split that into several segments. One is really in the beauty and anti-aging type of areas. Then you've got fitness and exercise, health and well-being, for example, and then you've got preventive health and so on. The rest are all much smaller segments. So clearly this is almost about a $600+ billion industry. It's really growing as well. And if you look at the shift in demographics, in the US it's all elderly population versus in India we are talking about still under 30 and growing into the middle-aged group. Rise of digital consumers, health and wellness awareness. So that is really increasing. That is actually going to drive the market in these places. Modernization, rise of value segment. That is very specific for India. The middle class in India is growing like anything. In fact, if you look at the middle class growth, the next projected growth in the next 30 years, that is about 2030, more than 50% of that comes from Asian countries and specifically India. Indian population is supposed to exceed over China by 2028. So they are talking really on a growth mode in terms of consumers actually. So huge opportunities here. And another area is really men's skincare products, which is also becoming a major area. And if you look at the growth in terms of chemical companies, what is expected? In fact, more than half the chemicals are likely to be produced in Asia. And we should certainly have an opportunity for Kerala to get a big share of this in as well. It's a huge opportunity here. And we should certainly look at that as a possibility. So going from 2010 to 2030, we can see how much the growth is going to be there in the chemicals area overall. And if you look at the industry itself, there are many, many ways these things can happen. Simple things like volume-wise, it's things like surfactants and detergents, then you've got polymers, fragrances. We talked about biofuels, and we have got preservatives, sunscreen, oils, microns. There are many, many areas there, and they are all obviously on a very huge growth mode in the next few years. I want to tell you is that we talked about biosourcing as a way. Dr. Gabriel Roy talked about biofuels, and we are talking about overall biosourcing as a theme for chemicals, moving away from standard chemical industry. So I'm not suggesting that we should go into conventional chemicals, which is already there in a number of other places, including Gujarat and so on. But the biosourcing of chemicals is a huge opportunity, and this comes from very natural sources. That's what I want to talk about. It's an opportunity. If you look at big companies like Unilever, for example, where I work, or if you look at P&G or L'Oreal and some of these big companies over there, most of them are committed to switching to biosourced or naturally sourced type of materials by 2020 and 2030. So it's a huge shift in the way the companies are thinking, where they want to go. So there's a huge opportunity here in terms of shifting from conventional petrol-based chemicals to natural, more green, and better type of chemicals that are involved here. So there's a shift here in the big company thinking. That means there's a huge opportunity to drive things in that direction. For example, this is just the front page of the CNE News, Chemical and Engineering News, this month, for example. Bio-based chemicals go big, and they're talking about bio-based polymers, for example. They're not here. Huge opportunity, not only in the US, but all over the world, as chemical companies are looking at everything on a global basis, for example. What are we talking about? We talk about algal oil. Algal oil is a simple way of getting biodiesel, but it is also a source for simply oil. It's also a source for a number of other things that we can talk about, for example. We can talk about starting materials, which are almost like waste products of these sort of industries. We're talking about simply waste materials, that's the carbon source, and the algae can actually convert these things into very specific things. What is different about it is that you can actually control the chemistry much better to treat that specific chemicals area. It's a huge opportunity here. It's not only in biofuels area, but also biochemicals area, for example. In fact, we have been really using bio-based, algal oil-based surfactants in our production, for example, now. So it's a huge change from 20 years ago, where we were talking about biomaterials. Now we are actually seeing that used in practice. Here is another case. This is, again, making things like green products, custom oil, proteins, peptides, fuels, huge opportunity in all of those, all coming from similar sort of microorganisms converting materials into this. This is another case where we are actually making direct amino acids and amino acid-based surfactants and detergents and so on. The possibility here is enormous in terms of being able to control the microorganisms we make. So you're talking biorefineries. So instead of having chemical stacks that we were talking about, really producing these materials in a very, very natural way. Huge opportunity here. Bio-based polymers, we're talking about cellulosic. This is again in the CND News that we are talking about. Starting with something like plants and how do you get into microcellulose, which can be converted into a variety of products there. These are really getting into the consumer area. The opportunity here is growth. What I'm talking about is really producing the chemicals that can be done by biological materials. That could be a huge opportunity. We talked about the coastal area and where marine land is available for algal production and so on. It is certainly going beyond simply biodiesels to a number of other opportunities. And obviously the personal care area is a huge opportunity here around talking about Ayurvedic things that we talked about. Clearly this is the holistic way of really looking at personal care in a natural way. And here the opportunities are again tremendous, and we have not exploited this at all. There's a huge opportunity here as we go forward. And what's the kind of business model are we talking about? Clearly, a lot of IPs may be there in some of these cases, in which case there's a question of actually having some kind of a joint venture type of thing to access this. A clear example, for example, in the case of algal oil was a lot of the know-how was here in this country. Actually, they have started some collaboration with Brazil and started a company, for example, which is actually producing this on an industrial scale. Why can't we do this in Kerala? Certainly a possibility there. So there is certainly that type of model exists. Clearly, it can go beyond that. We can certainly go into multinational corporations and interested in investing these things, and we can look at the partnership with them to promote them to spend the money in Kerala, for example. There. And clearly, direct investment, which is much more time involved. Obviously, there's a lot of significant R&D cost involved in that. Yeah. And beyond these things, certainly, health and nutrition, vitamins and so on, as people are becoming more and more health conscious, these are all opportunity areas. Aging performance, obviously certainly about diagnostics as well. These are all areas of potential growth in the next 20 to 30 years. So with that, I'm going to stop here. There are huge opportunities here that are available if you want to really tap into those things. And Kerala has the potential to do that. The know-how is there. And if we get the minds together, I'm sure it can make it happen. Thank you.